After taking the mysterious bolus, I fainted directly. Just as the queen was about to call a doctor over, my temperament changed drastically, and I began to act coquettishly with her. The queen had no choice but to comply with my current situation when I suddenly changed. Suddenly, the dragon pattern on my body activated. The power of dragon pattern guided me to knock down the queen and prepare to have intimate contact with her. Not only did the queen not refuse, she also agreed to have a night of fun with me. An ambiguous atmosphere had formed between the two of them. At this moment, it was night, and the outside was still raging with wind and rain. Leon had just finished eating black dragon bolus, and his entire body was surrounded by many blue lightning bolts, illuminating his entire room. Suddenly, Leon cast a thunder elemental magic on his chest with his hand. He let out a scream and emitted a dazzling flash all over his body. Leon not only cast his magic, but also let go of Roswitha's hand to prevent the magic from affecting Roswitha. Roswitha slightly widened her eyes and looked at Leon in shock. She couldn't understand why he suddenly had to be so harsh on him. Why did he use thunder magic on his own body? What the hell is he doing? The duration of thunder elemental magic is not long. In no time, the thunder and lightning around Leon disappeared. He suddenly fainted. He closed his eyes and felt weak in his body. He quickly leaned forward, about to fall off the bed and make intimate contact with the floor. At this moment, Roswitha discovered that Leon's body couldn't maintain balance. She quickly walked forward and hugged Leon's body to prevent him from falling to the ground. She looked at Leon nervously, afraid that something might happen to him again. Leon closed his eyes tightly, and his expression looked very uncomfortable. Roswitha placed her hand under Leon's head and body, and gently placed him on the bed. Roswitha's series of movements are as gentle as water, as if she is taking care of her injured husband's wife. After installing Leon, Roswitha whispered a sentence. "He's really crazy." No one knows if this sentence is cursing him or praising him. Roswitha stood beside and observed for a while, but found that Leon still hadn't made any movement to wake up. She sighed and turned around to leave Leon's room to find a doctor for him. "You wait here. I'll go find the palace physician to come over." As Roswitha walked towards the door of Leon's room, Leon slowly opened his eyes and woke up. He had a blush on his face, like someone who had just been drunk. He seemed to know that Roswitha was leaving, so he suddenly reached out and grabbed her, trying to stop her from leaving. Roswitha felt that someone behind her had grabbed something from her, and sensitively turned to look at Leon on the bed with a hint of surprise on her face. She saw Leon awake with a blush on his face, and his gaze wandering. The thing he was holding in his hand was her own tail. Leon wagged Roswitha's tail and looked at her with a silly smile. Although Roswitha didn't understand what was wrong with Leon now, she was a little angry about his current behavior. He looked at Leon with a serious expression and a tone full of displeasure. "How did you?" Leon didn't seem to notice the expression on Roswitha's face now. He held onto the tail of Roswitha and kept rubbing it, with a happy expression on his face. At this moment, Leon was as happy as a child who had received a new toy. The handsome expression after taking the bolus just now has disappeared without a trace. He rubbed against Roswitha's tail while speaking softly to her. "Heh. Wife, where are you going?" Upon hearing the question he was asking now, Roswitha's expression quickly changed from anger to surprise, clearly frightened. Roswitha's face immediately took on a large blush. She looked at Leon nervously and answered him hesitantly. Who is your wife?" Roswitha expressed dissatisfaction with Leon's strange behavior. She couldn't bear him holding her tail like this. She pushed Leon's face, trying to make him let go in order to pull her tail back. "Hurry up and let go of me." The expression on Leon's face showed that he enjoyed the feeling of holding the tail of Roswitha now, and he didn't seem to want her to leave now. He giggled dizzily as he clung to her tail. "I don't want to let go. I won't let my wife leave." Roswitha and Leon pulled and tugged at each other several times for their tails. As a result, Leon still tightly held onto her tail and refused to let go. Roswitha was unable to pull her tail back in the end. He was still giggling and hugging his tail like a spoiled child, constantly muttering in his mouth, "Wife, my wife." Finding out that the method she used just now didn't work, Roswitha gave up on getting serious with Leon. She turned her head with a speechless face and silently pondered Leon's current situation in her mind. Black Dragon bolus should only have the effect of strengthening the body, and there should not be such symptoms of mental confusion. Could it be that the magic of the thunder element just now changed the effect of the medicine? However, with his current idiot-like appearance, his life is not in danger for the time, right? Roswitha looked back at the silly Leon and inadvertently let out a long breath. Compared to the usual Leon, Roswitha even found Leon a bit cute now. Her face quietly reddened again because of him. Leon obviously liked the tail of Roswitha very much. He rubbed against her tail, still showing no intention of stopping, and continued to call her wife in his mouth. "Wife, wife, wife." She pretended to be impatient, but with a slight blush on her face and a relaxed and cheerful expression, as if accepting Leon's current state. She replied to Leon following his words. Okay, I'm here. What's wrong? Tell me quickly." At this moment, she didn't know what astonishing words Leon was going to say next. Upon hearing Roswitha's response, Leon looked particularly happy and assumed that Roswitha would allow him to express his request. He looked at Roswitha with an innocent expression, as if he were a child asking for candy. He spoke to her with earnestness in a playful tone. "I want a two-birth, my wife." Roswitha was once again shocked by what Leon said. Her reaction this time was even greater than when Leon called her wife just now. She widened her eyes and slightly opened her mouth, not knowing what to reply to for a moment. The blush that had hardly faded away instantly colored Roswitha's face again. Roswitha didn't understand this unreasonable demand. She cursed Leon angrily with a face as red as an apple. "You haven't even taken care of the twins of one birth, and you still want a two-birth. Don't overthink it." Obviously, Leon wasn't too satisfied with Roswitha's answer. He rolled from side to side while hugging Roswitha's tail, reluctance written all over his face, like a child who had thrown a tantrum. "I want a two-birth. I want a two-birth. Is it okay?" Roswitha suddenly didn't know what to say to comfort him. She covered her forehead with her right hand, lowered her eyebrows, closed her eyes tightly with a helpless look on her face. She silently pondered in her heart what to do in this situation. To avoid any unnecessary complications, it's better to answer him according to his words now. At this moment, the rain outside hit the windows, and the crisp sound made a soundtrack for the ensuing dialogue. Roswitha looked at Leon with a speechless expression, and calmly answered the question he had just raised. Okay. We not only want a 3-child, but also a 4 and 5 child. After hearing Roswitha's answer, Leon nodded and chuckled foolishly, expressing satisfaction with her response. Then he made another request to her. Then you have to come back to my hometown with me. Roswitha was a little impatient, but she continued with Leon's words. Go back. When we're settled, we'll go back. Leon quickly dropped Roswitha's tail after hearing a satisfactory answer. He raised his hands and danced around excitedly, like a child who finally got the candy he wanted to eat. Roswitha looked at Leon, who was so happy in front of her. The expression on her face relaxed slightly. She finally managed to coax this guy. She silently commented on Leon's situation just now in her heart. This guy is even more annoying than usual when he acts like a spoiled child. Suddenly, Leon approached Roswitha and leaned in with a cheerful expression, wanting to give her a kiss. Wife, you're so good! Roswitha noticed a movement from the person next to her, and slightly turned her head to notice that Leon's pouted mouth was about to approach. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately stopped Leon. She didn't want this kind of reward. Roswitha quickly reached out her hands to cover Leon's face and pushed him away, trying to stop Leon's face from approaching her again. Don't take the opportunity to be good to me, idiot! Leon may have been hurt by her action, he exclaimed in surprise. He was now stopped by Roswitha's hand and couldn't move at once, but he still worked his face forward. Roswitha couldn't help silently cursing in her heart. Why hasn't this bastard in front of me woken up at this time? For Leon, who has not woken up yet, Roswitha can no longer bear it. Her rationality suddenly went out of control, and she punched Leon in the face. Her voice revealed impatience. When will this medicine effect wear off? Before Leon could react to what had happened, he was hit in the face by her fist and let out another muffled groan. When Roswitha reacted, her fist had already hit Leon's face. And now Leon is bowing his head and covering his injured face, kneeling on the bed in grievance, unable to say anything. Roswitha quickly withdrew her hand. She looked at Leon, feeling a bit at a loss and feeling uneasy inside. I couldn't stop myself from hitting him. There was a hint of apology in Roswitha's expression. She comforted Leon by caressing his back with her hand, while asking him about her physical condition. Are you okay? However, Leon still didn't lift his head. At this moment, Leon suddenly realized that his body seemed a bit strange. His hand tightly grasped the clothes on his chest, and the blush on his face suddenly deepened, constantly panting. His body trembled uncontrollably, looking very uncomfortable. Wife, I feel a little uncomfortable. Roswitha also noticed that something was wrong with her body. She nervously lowered her head and noticed that The dragon pattern on her chest suddenly lit up. The dragon pattern emitted a dazzling purple light, indicating something to her. My God! She looked at dragon pattern in surprise, as if she knew why Leon was feeling so uncomfortable now. At this moment, Leon, who was lying on the bed, was still dizzy and didn't know what had happened to his body. Roswitha quickly climbed onto the bed and immediately peeled off Leon's clothes. As expected, the dragon pattern on Leon's chest also lit up. However, Leon hadn't done anything just now, and his consciousness had been in a daze. Roswitha stared closely at the purple glowing dragon pattern, puzzled. Why did the dragon pattern activate at this moment? Suddenly, Leon pressed down on Roswitha's shoulders and got up to pounce on her. Roswitha felt a little uncomfortable being pressed onto the bed by Leon, wanting to break free, but Leon tightly held onto her hand and didn't let go. She looked up at Leon with a tone full of dissatisfaction. Leon, you are a bastard. What do you want to do? Leon responded to Roswitha with a coquettish tone. I feel really uncomfortable, my wife. Leon sat down on Roswitha. His eyebrows curved downwards, and his eyes revealed a hint of grievance. He talked with a pitiful expression about his physical condition to Roswitha. I feel hot all over, and my chest itches. Roswitha was both shy and angry at this moment. She analyzed Leon's current situation, mixed with the thunder element of the dragon pattern, so that his body's desire for reproduction is even more intense than before. Just as Roswitha was still pondering the situation with the dragon pattern, Leon leaned against her chest and started to kiss her tail around affectionately. My wife's tail is fragrant. I love her tail the most. Roswitha recalled the chaotic situation she had with Leon when his dragon stripes were activated, which made her feel unhappy both physically and mentally. If thing continues like this, I'll be. In an attempt to stop a similar situation from happening again, Roswitha reached out and pushed at Leon's face to keep him from continuing to hold her tail, and tried to push him off of her. My tail is dragging on the ground all day long. Don't you think it's dirty to carry it in your mouth? Get off of me quickly. Although Leon couldn't open his eyes due to Roswitha's hand, he still tried his best to grab her hand and prevent her from moving around. Just as Roswitha was trying to push Leon out of the way, Leon's index finger suddenly pressed against her lips. Leon's action made Roswitha stop pushing his face. She was somewhat surprised by this. Leon's eyes didn't have the goofy look they had just had. He suddenly looked seriously at Roswitha beneath him and praised her in a low voice. Milkweed, you look so beautiful tonight. Roswitha was a little surprised and shy by his compliment. She turned her head and replied softly, Even if you say so. For the sudden change in Leon's attitude, Roswitha didn't know what to say for a moment. However, at this moment, Leon seemed more tempting and handsome than ever before, and his aura made her unable to control it. What's going on? This man's attitude is completely different from just now. This irresistible madness and ferocity. She turned her head to look at the man in front of her in fascination. Do I actually have any expectations for him? Leon's face was flushed, and he looked at Roswitha with gentle eyes, softly saying words that she couldn't refuse. My dear, you can help me, right? Faced with such a temptation, Roswitha couldn't help but agree to such a somewhat unreasonable request from him. Okay, then. Only tonight. The bodies of Leon and Roswitha overlapped in this way, and the air was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. The howling wind and rain outside the window muffled the sound of them entwining with each other.